Hi, this is Dee Wallace, and you're watching Without Your Head.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal.
I'm Treacherous Trista.
We're joined by the Boulet Brothers. It's very cool to have you here.
Thank you both for having us. We're very excited to be here.
Yeah. So season 4 of Dragula premieres on Shudder tomorrow as we record this, on the 19th.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So I got to see the first episode, and I love the opening. It's very creative. It's almost like a short movie, like every season. How much time goes into making just the opening?
A lot. I mean, it honestly takes a couple of weeks to make an episode. It's very non-traditional for reality TV because typically you just sort of film your reality portions and it's really fast and furious and then we're done. But because of the scripted parts, it takes us a lot longer to make each episode.
I want to chime in though and also say that those scripted areas, those mini shorts at the beginning, and also the kill scenes at the end, these are the parts of the show that we absolutely love. Like we pour ourselves into the creativity, so it is a labor of love.
Was that a real haunt that you filmed the prison scene in? Like, is it a place you can go visit?
Well, it's not exactly. No.
It looked like it looked like they were professional haunts.
Yeah, it is, but it's sort of customized. I'll put it that way.
Right. So what's the application and selection process like to get on Dragula?
So we usually open auditions, 4 months, I think, before we start filming. And there's a whole application process that people have to go through. They have to record a video with all kinds of requirements and then, pass different tests and things like that. It's a pretty exhaustive process.
How many applications I assume it gets bigger each year. So from the first year to the fourth year, how many more people applied?
Oh, I'd have to say just percentage wise, it's probably the increase is astronomical. It's geometrical. It's a 5,000% increase in applicants. It's very formidable.
Yeah. So when you mix horror and drag together, which is more important, being creepy or being glamorous?
I think that depends who you ask, right? I mean, and it really depends on who's doing it too, because each performer brings a little bit of flair and a little bit of fire to what they bring to the stage. So someone could be, creepy on 10s across the board with very little glamour, and we would love that. Or someone could be just the flip of that and be, glamour on 10s with just a little spice of something creepy or something that makes you uncomfortable. And either one can fly in the House of Dragula.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you said in the episode, art is subjective, so you don't judge them on the art, which I liked. I like that message.
Yeah, it's really important, especially with drag artists like this. You have people coming from such different points of view, right? You have really trashy kind of punk rock drag artists, and then you have really refined, presentational burlesque kind of drag artists, and just everything in between. So there's no way to really judge them fairly on just their drag because they're all so different. They just don't fit in the box. So the only way you can, judge them is judging them on how they use their drag in that particular challenge.
Mm-hmm. Because some of them were really gory. Which was right up my alley.
Yeah, and a lot of times they'll kind of run the gamut through the season. Whoever starts off with a glamorous look might, switch to something really disgusting later on.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. Trista, do you have a question?
Yes, Halloween is upon us. So can you guys tease us with possible Halloween costumes for this year?
Halloween costumes for us?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we made Halloween costumes of us that many people will be wearing this year.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw those custom, the masked box set, but they're out kind of like a retro throwback to those 70s and 80s plastic masks. So, that's something that we've been wanting to do forever. And now that they're realized, so many of our fans have bought them and love them, and they make a special appearance, as you guys know, in the premiere of season 4. Really fun stuff.
Yeah, we usually have to be ourselves on Halloween. That's what people want to see.
Right. Yeah, I grew up with those masks. I actually used to collect those, the plastic masks with the elastic. And when I got into my teens, I sadly threw them all away. I wish I would have kept them, but
yeah, they're probably worth a lot of money now. Those, especially those Ben Cooper, like original ones from the 60s,
right.
They're very collectible.
Yeah, because I had a lot of hand-me-down ones from my older brother too, who was born in the 60s. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, you must have had really good ones.
Yeah, the Incredible Melting Man, which was actually one of my favorites. Speaking of that, is there any, because I was just thinking the Incredible Melting Man, are there any horror monsters or movies that you've never seen anyone do before that you always think like someone could really pull this off?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I see a lot of, I don't see many people dressed as like horror icons, but they'll borrow certain things from them. I don't think there's any I haven't seen reflected in some way, shape, or form in one of our competitors before. Not that I
can't think of one either, honestly. Like nothing like pops to mind.
We've been from sea monsters to kaiju to kind of universal monsters vibe, witches, werewolves. I mean, everything in between. So I don't know. Maybe the Blob. That would be interesting.
It's funny you say that because I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, the Blob. Like, how could you even pull that off?
You could do it. I mean, you could definitely do it. It would be interesting.
This another one up my alley. I think I would like to see the Blob, or maybe I'll even be the Blob. Well,
when I think about like, I don't know if you're familiar with Burning Man. It's like this crazy festival out here, and so I can picture using some of those materials that they use to build things at that festival to make a blob kind of costume that could light up and look kind of gelatinous. I bet it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't want to give away, much of the first episode, but I have to say the Leatherface for me was pretty wild and very creative, very gory, and I liked.
Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it.
That kind of reminds me, we throw the Los Angeles Halloween ball and have forever in LA. And one year we did kind of like an internal theme, like Drac and myself and everyone that worked, we did kind of like a kind of a haunted farmhouse vibe with like a inbred family of like people with, skin masks, and everyone had like machetes and chainsaws, and we all did that theme, and it was so fun. So to see one of the competitors from episode 1 kind of do that with Leatherface, it was really cool.
Yeah. Inbred hillbillies, another favorite of mine. So you're getting all my key points. Trista, you have another question?
I'd love to know what some of your favorite horror films are.
God, there's so many. I mean, I have a soft spot for the Halloween films if we go like kind of like standard horror movies, but we kind of get in little moods, right? So we're kind of like in this Giallo mood right now. So we're kind of going back and watching all the like, what are the first Giallo movies? And you know what I mean? So we're kind of like into that right now. I don't know. We like a lot of Alfred Hitchcock movies. What do you think, Swan?
I mean, we have our personal favorites. Like for me, the one that was a game changer when I saw it the first time and really kind of like rearranged my young brain was Hellraiser. And it still stands up, and I'm a little scared / excited to see what they might do with like the next installment with like a woman playing Pinhead. And I think that's really exciting to kind of have that gender blender approach from something that we're all really familiar with. Death Becomes Her is kind of like a really classic go-to that I just love. I could never see that movie too much. And something new that I saw within the last couple of years that I really loved, and I think this one is a little controversial because people really love the original and I love the remake, is the new Suspiria.
I like it too a lot. It's it's a different movie, because I always thought it was like a weird one to remake, because it's not really, the movie's not about the story, it's about the atmosphere, but they did something really different with it.
I did, and I love it.
I'm kind of into Black Sunday right now too. Like we went back and rewatched that recently, and it definitely stands the test of time. It's very creepy.
So were you always a horror fans, I assume?
Yeah, I definitely have been since my earliest memory was watching horror movies.
Yeah, I mean, forever. I mean, but I think my love affair with horror really kind of stemmed from my relationship with Halloween, because I've always been obsessed since I was like a little kid and worked in haunts through like, when I was in like junior high and high school, and like, I always have like a super huge imagination. So that is still one of my favorite subgenres of horror, like horror straddling the realm of fantasy. For me, that's like the sweet spot.
So what was it about Halloween being able to dress up and be something that you can't be in normal life?
Yeah, and I always love the theater, and I've been a performer since I was like a little kid, like 11 years old. I started doing like performances and stuff. So, and I always kind of rooted for the bad guy in all of the cartoons, and just was like obsessed with like the villains. So it was sort of the day that I could dress up like all of my idols, and it wasn't weird.
Yeah.
For me, I thought it was interesting because, especially when you're young, you see adults and they sort of have their like day-to-day mundane lives, especially if you live in like, suburbs or outside of the city. And so to me, it was kind of magical because it was that day that everyone was a little on edge, like they were open to being scared, or they were open to sort of living outside of their box and like feeling a little wild and putting on like a wig or some makeup or a costume or scaring each other. And so it was like, wow, what a cool day, like compared to every other day.
Exactly. And now you guys made it, a whole show. So
That's right.
A friend of the show, Mark Patton from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, he always brought this up and wanted me to tell you guys. He always said that the drag queens should really take over horror conventions because he said it would be the perfect blend. And he said this years ago before the show took off. But now that he saw the show, he's like, it's perfect people to do it. So what do you think of that idea? You guys running a horror convention?
We do a lot of horror conventions. Like we get booked for horror conventions, and we show up and do meet and greets and all that stuff and panels, and it's a really great time. Drag artists are typically pretty theatrical, so and they have typically, not always, but typically have pretty good elevated taste in an artistic sense. So I think they can make the whole thing. I think they can make the whole experience, maybe a little more special and theatrical.
It's perfect. No, it's perfect. I mean, drag at its base is about like illusion and entertainment and, delivering a fantasy. And that sometimes is a dark fantasy. So I think it would be a great marriage for drag queens or drag performers to be at the helm of the experience of walking into a convention and sort of being transported to another world.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you make of the rise of drag in popularity? And it's become more, not that your show's really mainstream, but it's become more of a thing that people are aware of.
Well, I think that, that has a lot to do with the birth of our show, because I think drag was introduced in a certain way that was maybe purposely whitewashed a little bit so that mass audiences could absorb it, or would be into it. And, of course, the good thing about that is that it brings the art of drag out to a bigger audience. Drag artists make more money. It becomes more mainstream. It gets more visibility. But the downside of that is that the actual authentic drag experience sort of becomes erased. So the drag that people are being introduced to is not necessarily an accurate representation of the drag that you see out in queer culture. And so that's why we thought it was important for us to make Dragula in the first place, because we felt like that real sensibility was getting erased. For example, you would see lots of sort of white cis men competing in drag on TV. And so people started thinking, well, then drag is only for men, which is not the case. And it never has been. The history of drag shows people from all genders participating. You have drag kings, you have non-binary drag artists and everything in between. And so, we just felt like it was important to bring out what we felt was the authentic side of drag and show people what it was really like, warts and all.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And we wouldn't have a great name like Sigourney Beaver if it was just all men on the...
Exactly. I'm glad you appreciate that, because I do too. I heard her name the first time and I'm like, I just love it.
So yeah, I was right with you. I was maybe they should have did something with her and the xenomorph, but
who knows? It's just the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Trista, you have another question?
I'm always curious as to what scares horror creators. So I'm wondering if you have any fears or phobias you feel comfortable sharing.
Or maybe not.
I'm thinking about it. Actually.
The one that you answered, I think my favorite answer of yours, because we've been asked this before. You're like, I'm not scared of the supernatural or demons or possession or the end of the world or anything like this. I'm scared of like emails when I'm in production.
No, it's true. I think that the business side of what we do is probably the most terrifying. And so that I would say my phobia is every morning waking up and opening my emails and being like, what's there today? What's the new thing today that I get to deal with?
What kind of giant storm do we have to like control or / weather?
Yeah, that's the downside. I think a lot of people think, well, they're drag artists and they host the show. It's so glamorous. I'm like, yes, but in all honesty, we are producers and writers and artists. And so we're very hands-on in the day-to-day operations of everything to do with our business. So it's definitely not all lipstick and glamour. That's for sure.
Julie Hackney, makeup effects artist, is going to be our guest this Thursday, but she wanted me to tell you that she rewatches and repeat while she's working on creative stuff for movies. It's very.
I love to hear that.
I
That's
love
awesome.
stuff like that. Yeah, tell her we said hello, please.
Yeah, and she wanted to know: do you have a particular look that holds a special place in your heart?
I think that our promo look from season 3 is sort of iconic. It became like our stamped look. I feel like that's what people most recognize us as, with like, the white kind of updo hair and the big blood necklace and the big pointy black vinyl shoulders and all that.
I think that blood necklace is, it isn't a specific look, but it is definitely like something that we kind of branded ourselves with almost accidentally. And it became something that like people repeatedly saw over and over and over. And then we get fan art with our heads like decapitated and blood just kind of like, pouring out of our lopped off necks, which I love. And, it inside our story, like we were setting up for a photo shoot. This was like the first magazine cover we had done, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And we were talking about, well, how can we accessorize this black latex dress? And the hair looks so good, but damn, I want some blood. And it was like one of those gel, window decorations for like Halloween. You can like peel them off the thing and stick them on the window. And I basically just took that and X-Acto bladed like the blood thing and kind of just placed it around our neck. And then the photo came out and someone who makes those out of latex was like, oh my God, I make these necklaces. Please let me, and then, then now we have an array. We have huge ones and small ones, and we have blood, and we have black blood and green blood, orange and red. And it's like a huge, it's a part of our armoire now.
Yeah. Kim Trails wants to know, how do you come up with the Devilish elimination challenges?
Oh, it's kind of easy because we have so many that we want to do. I think it's only limited by our budget, not only money, but time. Because a lot of times we'll be like, okay, well, we have to take this person and do this extermination tonight, so we know who goes home before the next day. So that's what really limits us. But God, it's pretty easy to come up with them. You just have to think like, what would it be fun to watch a drag artist do? It could be anything. Ride a motorcycle, like get bucked off of a Bronco, get dragged by a horse. I mean, there's a million things.
Yeah, I mean, dragged by a horse it hasn't happened yet, but it should happen. And I'm just going to put it out there. It will. But when we go through our day, whatever we might be doing, like I think that Dragula is always in the back of our minds, even just a little bit. So if we see something like, oh my, like that right there, and we'll make sure that we, kind of catalog that so we can look back later and say, okay, like let's look through our notes to see what fits where, because we have like an abundance of ideas. Yeah.
I was happy to see the Silver Shamrock reference in the end of Resurrection.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that. And it seems like Halloween 3 is getting a bit of a resurgence. Like I kind of see it everywhere recently. And I was like, you all hated this movie forever.
I say this all the time on the show. When I was a kid, like I was the only person who liked it. Now it's I think the minority that doesn't like it.
It's true, because no one liked it. I feel the same way. And the song was so catchy, and the whole concept. I mean, it was weird, but I think it got a bad rap because it didn't follow up with Michael Myers, right? Mm-hmm. That's what people thought. They were just disappointed that it wasn't Michael Myers making a reappearance, and so they didn't give it a chance. But now looking back on it, they're like, that's actually a pretty cool concept.
I like that. I'm sure you guys have seen Halloween Kills, or at least I assume you have already. Just that moment where you saw the three masks appear again, and it was like, well, how did they get there? Who cares? It was just cool to see them.
Right. Yeah. So Dragula, it premieres this week on Shudder, and I hope people check it out. I had a great time watching the first season and look for our first episode, and look forward to watching the rest of the season.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both for having us.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.